Samra, it's incredible to have you on the Grow with Win podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to congratulate you on your new nonprofit organization, Brave Beginnings. I just checked that you recently launched it, and it's an incredible organization. So for those of you who don't know, it's a nonprofit, and it partners with women's shelters across Canada, and it matches women with mentees. And this is for women who are facing domestic violence or domestic abuse, right?
Yeah, women who've escaped violence or oppression and who are looking to build a new life after escaping. And it's a really hard part of life because you're often starting from scratch, and sometimes, depending on your community and culture, your family's against you, and it's a very scary time, right? So we match these women with mentors who are strong, compassionate women who want to give back and help a survivor build her new life. And it's kind of like a big sister kind of a program for abuse survivors. And we're thrilled. Like, we've been working on it for the past 4 or 5 years, and a lot of twists and turns, and things that the board fell apart. Then I had to recruit a new board, and then other things happened and all of that. But finally, we are at a stage where we're about to launch our first cohort, and we are going to achieve charity status soon. So it's a really, really amazing time, and we're very excited. Very excited.
Incredible. Congratulations on that again. So let's dive straight into why you started this organization, like your story behind it.
So my personal story of coming out from an abusive marriage, child marriage, and then eventually building a new life, I just always felt that I wanted to give back and help others, because I knew that my story is not just mine. My story is the story of millions and millions of women and girls around the world who continue to suffer in silence, including here in Canada. And I wanted to do my part to make a difference. So I started sharing my story. And when I shared my story, a lot of women locally would reach out to me and say, can I just talk to you? Can I have a cup of coffee with you? Can you give me some guidance, give me some encouragement? And I started to mentor women on my own personal time. And I saw the difference it made. The human connection was the key to helping them thrive and heal and succeed after escaping violence. So some of them were able to start new businesses. Some of them were able to go back to school or just improve their self-confidence. And I thought to myself, well, what about if there's a network? Because I'm just one person. What if we create a network of mentors who are helping these women rebuild or build new lives? And for sure, leaving abuse is very hard, but staying away is even harder, because then it's so intimidating sometimes. Where do I start? I don't have life skills. I don't have confidence. I don't have friends. I don't know how to get a job. I haven't completed my education. So there's all these different barriers that women face when they're trying to go forward with their life. And having somebody who believes in you, who champions you, who helps you be more courageous and get past those limiting beliefs is just absolutely priceless. And certainly I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my mentors and people who supported me, and I wanted to pay it forward. So that's what gave birth to the idea for Brave Beginnings, like a mentorship program. And then we just kind of went with it and had a vision, and now that vision is finally coming to life. And I've been very lucky to have a great team and find amazing people for my board of directors who really are pulling through and have held on from day one and helped make this a reality. Because for sure, you want to do all those things, but you need people around you. So I've been very, very lucky. It's totally a team effort.
Yeah, so I love the idea and I love the intention behind it. And so let's go back to child marriages. So you said you got married when you were very young and it was arranged. And part of it is because of the culture that we grew up in, or our parents grew up in. And so you're from Pakistan originally?
Pakistan, yes.
Okay, me too. And then Samra and I are not related. We just have the same last name.
Right? I saw that and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like such a coincidence.
People might be wondering, same country, same last name, aren't they related?
I know.
No. we're not. So you were arranged to be married by your parents at how old were you when that
I was
happened?
16.
16 years old.
I was 16 years old. In grade 11, I was doing my math homework when my mom came into my room. She stroked my hair, put a glass of orange juice on my table, and then announced that there's a marriage proposal for me. And my parents are considering it. And within the next few weeks, I was engaged, and I was told that I don't have much of a choice, and it was the best thing for me. And right after my 17th birthday, I was married off, and then sent
And
to Canada as a wife. And I had never met him. The first time I met him was on the day of my wedding.
yeah, and that's the way it happens for a lot of girls back home. Just because there's a culture, and then the culture becomes tradition, and then so one thing I wanted to highlight was that just because there's a tradition that we're doing something doesn't mean it's morally or ethically sound. Like you
Yeah,
said, you had no choice in the matter, but it was your life, right?
exactly. And we often think of these things as, oh, it's their culture, it's their religion, it's their norm. So who are we to say something about it, right? A lot of people
Right.
will say that looking in from the outside. But child marriage, domestic abuse, all those things, these are human rights violations.
Mm.
And we should never overlook human rights violations in the name of culture and religion. And sometimes, people will say to me, well, if he turned out to be a good husband, it wouldn't have been a bad thing. And I
Right.
always answer this by, okay, even if he was the best husband in the world, does that make it okay for me to lose my childhood, my adolescence, my right to grow up, my right to decide how to live my life, which career to pursue, who and when to get married, when who to choose to get married to, and my right to go to concerts with friends and fall in love and make my mistakes and choose if and when to have children, like all those things that made me me. Like, is it okay to give that up, and be deprived of those things just because I achieved my true purpose of marriage and he was a good husband? Is that the only thing women are for? You know, is that the only purpose we have in life, is to find a good husband? No, no, we're individuals. We're complete human beings, right? We're not some little bell attached to the neck of a pet or something. Like it's um, it's a whole different way of thinking, which I think our society needs to evolve to. And that change will only happen by breaking the silence, because in these kinds of things, complicity is also oppressive. When you're silent, it only favors the oppressor and never the oppressed. So more and more of us need to speak up, more and more men need to speak up. So I'm really glad we're doing this. More and more people need to say that, no, this is wrong and this shouldn't be happening. It's not a men versus women issue, it's a human rights issue. it's
Exactly.
it's all of us versus the problem issue. And when we approach it that way, and we address the root causes, like toxic masculinity, or telling women, and from a young age, like I'm the eldest of four girls. So growing up in my family, I always heard that, oh, don't dream too big, don't forget that you're a girl, so stay in your limits,
Mm.
right? Or you just have to like conform, and like it's okay to have dreams, but don't expect them to come true. um, you should be lucky that you got to the real purpose of being a girl sooner rather than later, and didn't have to go through that education crap. Even when I got divorced, my own brother-in-law one day called me and said, what's the point of you winning all these awards and scholarships if you failed at the real purpose of being a woman? Shame on you. So these are things you hear, uh, and women hear and girls hear from a very, very young age. And that becomes a reality system. So it's going to take a lot of deliberate and very multi-pronged efforts to shed those beliefs that propagate these behaviors. So yes, the laws will do one thing, like absolutely child marriage continues to be legal in many, many countries around the world, shockingly even Canada. So we need to change those laws. But we also need to start from the ground up and from the grassroots level of changing mindsets and educating people and changing this whole idea of this woman's honor is attached to her clothing and marital status and ability to bear children and everything that she has to serve instead of who she is as a person.
Right. And then a lot of it has to do with breaking the cycle, right? Like you said, it started with you. And a lot of the times people don't get to live or act as powerfully as you did in your situation. Like, it's extremely hard. I was reading your blog about your story, and it was an incredible story. Like, I cried at the end of reading your story. I was like, wow, that is amazing. And a lot of women don't have the courage or don't have the resources or don't have the support to do what you did. And so they become complacent, and then that tradition and that culture is passed on to future generations. So it starts with you. And a lot of the time, so we're working on, helping women who have been in domestic violence or part of abusive relationships. But how do we stop that wound from appearing in the first place, right? Like, we're putting, at the end of the day, this is like important work. Like, there's so much, it is required in all over the world. But helping people who already been through it is like putting bandage on a wound, right? So how do we stop the wound from occurring in the first place? What do you think?
Question. That's a great question. I often say that everything right now that we're doing is reactive. It's like damage has happened, let's do damage control, right? Mm-hmm. But how do we prevent the damage from happening? And that starts with education and awareness. And I think it starts from, again, like I said, grassroots work of changing those age-old ideas and beliefs about gender roles. So patriarchy affects not just women, but also men. Like, I mean, men are told that they have to be tough, they can't cry, they can't express emotions. And then the only emotions that are acceptable for a man are rage and anger and toughness. And, and they're, so what does that do? It takes away a sense of empathy. When you're not able to empathize with your own emotions, you cannot empathize with other people's emotions. So if you can't be empathetic to yourself and you shut that part of you down, you're not going to be empathetic to others. So when you are harming someone else, you're not going to feel their pain. What is that emotion that keeps us from harming other people? It's empathy. And when you lack empathy, then, you lose your humanity. And that's what is happening. That's what toxic masculinity is doing to boys and men. So it's as much harmful to them as it is to women. And for women, we're teaching them to be conforming, to be less, to be, to be compliant, submissive, subservient, because that's your place. We're told from a young age, you're a girl, don't dream too big. Your job is to look pretty and serve the man. Or we're told that, if you're too loud, we're going to be perceived as bossy, and if we're too assertive, we're going to be difficult. Or if we're too educated, we're not going to find any guy who will want us. If we're too this, like, we're just bombarded with all these ideas of what we should be, and we spend our entire lives trying to conform to those ideas in order to be accepted and get the societal approval, the stamp, and we never quite achieve it. We're never good enough. And we're told that from a very young age, that we're never good enough. So,
and then that also,
and that starts with education, awareness, talking to our children, and it will happen over generations. But that's where it starts, teaching our children about early signs of abusive behavior, how to recognize in the beginning and walk away and protect yourself and others around you. And my first TED Talk was exactly on this topic. So it's very important to be proactive.
100%. And that's a great answer, because it does start with education and awareness. And then it also, like, for marriages in our culture, and there's a stigma behind, like, when you get divorced, that means especially for women or girls, that their life is over, right? Like, there's no more moving forward. You're like at
kind
the
of
bottom
like the label that gets put on you, damaged goods, used property, stay away.
Yeah, exactly. So that also doesn't help so imagine being a girl in that situation and you're in an abusive relationship, but if you want divorce, then your life as perceived by society is pretty much over. So it comes with a lot of baggage and a lot of pressure, and that's why your story is that much more powerful and inspiring. That you went against all those norms and you challenged them, and here you are.
Yeah, you know, I get that backlash a lot. Like I said, what my brother-in-law said, or even in around here, like there was a couple of years ago, I was speaking at an International Women's Day event at a Punjabi Sikh community here in Brampton, in Canada, and this one person got up after my speech and said, why you talk about this empowerment? What's the point of this empowerment if you are a single mother with a broken family? And single mother is such a bad word.
Yeah.
There's like so much stigma and negative connotation attached to it. With all due respect, sir, in your eyes, we might be a broken family, but actually we are more complete and happy than ever before. Because what makes a complete and happy family is love and respect, not traditional gender roles.
If there's something that you really want to do and you don't have a conversation about it with someone who's actually done it, it's going to be a very difficult path. And that's something that I've learned through my experiences, of writing a best-selling book, of starting and failing at a business, of starting this podcast and learning how to interview and be interviewed on other podcasts. And so I want to tell you that I had help. I had a lot of help to get to where I am today. And I want to offer that back to you. Everything that I've learned through my experiences, hundreds of hours of personal development, and having something in mind and actually going out and doing it, I want to offer that back to you. So if there's something that you really want to do and you think I can help you out with that, reach out to me and book this 30-minute call. It's absolutely free. There's no commitment, and I'm not going to sell you anything here. All I'm doing is seeing if there's any way I can add as much value to your life as I can. So if you're interested in that, click that link and let's start talking about your dreams.
It was back in 7-8 years ago. There were so many times that I was sexually harassed by married men in the Pakistani Indian community. And they would be shocked if I turned them down, because they would be like, you should be grateful that we're even giving you attention. And don't forget, like, you're divorced. Like, as if, like I'm some kind of I'm wearing some kind of a sign that I'm available. Like, I'm there for the taking and it's fair game. So there's all these different disgusting attitudes attached to the stigma of being divorced. And that's a lot of reason why women stay, because they don't want to be labeled with that sense, stigma and shame. And that's, again, an important part of what needs to be done. And the more we speak, we put the shame where it belongs, which is with abusers and not with the victims. And there's nothing wrong with being divorced. If you're not happy with someone, like, life is short. Life comes once. If you're not happy, then what's the point? And even if there is no abuse, like, sometimes two good people will not be good together. It's your life, and you deserve to be happy. And certainly you want to make sure that, you're amicably doing it so that your children are not affected and everything. But, life is too short to spend doing things and being with people that are not fulfilling you. And then if there's actually abuse and violence involved, it should never be tolerated, because even for the sake of kids, because kids are seeing that, they will normalize it. They will think that's what love looks like, and that's the kind of love they will accept into their own lives. So when I left my marriage, my biggest factor was that I don't want my children to grow up thinking this is okay, and I don't want them to accept this in their own lives, because that's how the cycle of violence perpetuates over generations. And it's time to stand up and say, it ends with me. And that's when things will start changing.
Exactly, and that's powerful. And it's the same thing about stopping the cycle with you, right? And your kids. And then the children at a young age are very malleable too, right? So I read Dr. Bruce Lipton's book, The Biology of Belief, and he talks about how children between the ages of 0 to 9, their brainwaves are in a different state. It's called theta, which is imagination, but it's also hypnosis, meaning that everything they're seeing, everything they're going through, it's being recorded. And then when they shift their brainwave states and they grow older, over the ages of 9, they come into delta, and they start becoming aware of everything they've seen and everything that's recorded. and everything gets normalized, and there's no filter, right? And so
Yeah,
extremely powerful that education and awareness and telling your children, if you've been through something like that, that it's not okay. Powerful.
absolutely.
And so I want to talk about, so you weren't always, an author and a speaker. So I read that you were really good at economics and you had your master's and you won a scholarship. So how was this transition from being this, A+ student to becoming a speaker? What was that like? How did that come about?
You know, it all happened very organically. Like when I started, when I finished my master's and I got a job at the bank, and I was doing my banking career, and then I was doing all this speaking stuff on the side, and now this speaking stuff has grown to this level, and I have a book, and I'm now working on a second book and all of that. That's where my passion lies. And I've been, and I was like, okay, I need to find a career that also brings in my intellectual capabilities and my passion. So for sure, writing and speaking, I love doing it. But I'm also now pursuing more education in the field of mental health because I'm really, really passionate about it, and I'm helping people build resilience and courage and live lives of freedom and truth, and doing that from a mental health standpoint, and helping them build new lives after trauma, etc. So that's something that I'm working towards now. So I'm really pivoting my career from banking, economics, and all, which I liked, I enjoyed, but this is definitely more me.
Right. So it's the same thing about happiness and fulfillment, right? Not just in relationships, but whatever makes you happier in life. And
You have to live your truth. You have to be true to who you are. That's when you'll do what you're best at, and that's when you'll succeed.
mhm,
There's no question. I mean, for sure, you have to do sometimes things to get to where you want to be. And I certainly did that. And I'm very grateful for my years in banking and corporate life and all. But I always deep down knew that it's a transition phase, because I've needed at that time to build myself financially, but and be self-sufficient and all of that. And that was a chapter. And now it's time for the next chapter.
yeah. And then you mentioned like speaking of building that you at one point you were tutoring kids and then you had a catering business at the same time.
Yeah, I used to sell biryani, butter chicken, to students on campus to make money, because I was a student and I had like 4 or 5 minimum wage jobs on campus and raising my kids. So that selling all that food helped me do my groceries and brought some money in, and also helped me make a lot of friends because they loved my food. So a lot of those people are still my friends, and they always tease me. We met you because of the food, but now we love you as a friend. I'm like, no, I know you guys are still here for the food because every time they're over, what did you cook?
Oh,
I love
God.
cooking. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. What an incredible story. So did speaking come naturally to you, or did you have to like acquire some skills or get some training to?
A bit of both. I think I always liked speaking, and I've always liked teaching. So I was always like, even when I was very young in school and growing up, I was always like choreograph. I used to choreograph all the school dances. I used to like go on stage and do like speeches for different things and run different clubs. And I created a school newspaper, and writing articles and things like that. So I was always a bit of a I guess I like being a person who helps people, being on stage and all. So it was definitely something that I like doing. But then when I started speaking, this was like 8 years ago. Uh, I wasn't nearly as proficient at it as I am now, and I'm consistently learning and growing and evolving. Because in the beginning, it was more like I'm sharing my story, and the first time I shared my story on stage, I was like crying for half an hour. So over the years, I've learned how to take my messages and package them into different little packages, I guess. Like, I can do a topic about mental health, I can do topics in corporate leadership, I can do topics in diversity and inclusion, I can do topics in violence against women. So there's a lot of different range of things that I can cover, and package stories and learnings and insights the same way in different things. And so, when I'm going to speak at a women's shelter about domestic abuse, I can go much deeper into the abuse aspects and bring those things out. Whereas when I'm talking into a corporate event and talking about authentic leadership, it's more about leading from a place of purpose and courage, and building trust and connection with your teams. So there's different things and the different ways I can do it, and that's the joy of it. That's what I love, like learning, and I love working with my clients to craft customized topics uh, that, here's how we're gonna, like, what do you need? Like, I always put my clients first, like, what do you need? What are things that you are trying to tell your audience and your teams, and then let's make that happen.
Incredible. So it seems like a lot of things that you did growing up helped you with your speaking career as well. So
Oh,
that's amazing.
absolutely. I love it.
I remember seeing one of your posts, and you said that it's very important to connect with your own thoughts and feelings to get insights. And so, what do you have any practices around that? What do you do to connect with your own thoughts and feelings?
I journal
Mm.
quite a lot. I talk to myself a lot. In fact, my
Mm.
children make fun of me all the time. Like, Mom, you're talking to yourself again. Like sometimes they like me be walking or driving, and I'm just like talking. And, what are you saying? And I'm like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to me. It's like, you're so weird. So I talk to myself a lot. I'm very mindful of what goes on. I think, and I'm growing on that one. Like, I'm actually like being more diligent about it, conscious about it. Like, what kind of dialogues are entering my mind? What am I saying to myself? What am I listening to? I listen to a lot of audiobooks along those
Mm.
lines as well, which also is very liberating for me, and just constantly learning and growing on that path. But it's really about whatever works for you. For everyone's different. For me, I'm a speaker and a writer, so it's journaling and just having conversations with me, and really being very conscious about what goes in through me, and listening to my body and listening to my gut. Like, I mean, I just went away on this month-long road trip in Quebec, which was very unplanned, but I just felt like doing it, and I took off without any plan, with just a car and a bunch of clothes and a pillow and a blanket in the back seat in case I had to sleep in the car because I couldn't find a hotel. Um, and it was a month of a lot of discovery, a lot of self-discovery and self-love, and shedding limiting beliefs, because I was very conscious about what's going on in my mind and my heart and my body. When you listen to your inner voice, you can never go wrong. That's your inner compass that is guiding you.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just following that calling, right? And a lot of time it's very hard and requires courage, but it is something that you have to do. It is living life, right? Otherwise, we'll always be living life according to other people's terms.
Absolutely.
And there's stigmas everywhere, right? Even with careers, like if you wanted to just be at the bank, people would have been like, "Oh, don't leave this job," and I'm sure there were challenges with that as well.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank you for being on this show. And I always like to end with two questions. One is a message from your heart to the audience. And if I were to make this difficult, I would ask you to give a message to the heart to that 16-year-old girl who just got engagement. What would you say to her?
You know what I would say to her is that I'm proud of you.
Hmm.
I would thank her, and she already had it in her. She already had the courage and the bravery, and yes, she was afraid, but she kept pushing. She kept trying one more time. And if she hadn't done everything that she did, whether it was studying at night when the whole world was against her, or not giving up on her dreams and trying to do whatever it takes to make things work, she hadn't done all that, I wouldn't exist today. So uh, I'm just very, very proud of her. I almost think of her as my kid. And to people listening in, the message I would give is that live your truth. Um, there is no service in diminishing your fire to fit other people's expectations and boxes. And when you start to love yourself and truly be true to who you are, it is going to be difficult. People will walk out of your life, uh, sometimes even family. People will shun you. You will face rejection. Sometimes you feel like you're the only one in a sea of crowd who's different. That's your superpower. Because when those people walk out, the right people will walk in. When you're unique and true to yourself, you will create your own tribe that will lift you up and champion you like nothing else. And if you're not getting what you need to be truly yourself from the people around you, you're not asking for the wrong things, you're asking the wrong people. And just love yourself so wholeheartedly and live your truth and your unique truth instead of conforming to what other people want you to be. And that is your superpower. You cannot go wrong. In fact, that is going to set you free like nothing else. And that's when success, excellence, everything will come your way. When I shared my story for the first time, I was nervous. I come from a Pakistani background. It's stigmatized. It's too traumatic. It's shameful to see things like these and speak about things like these. But if I hadn't chosen to share my story 8 years ago because of that fear, I wouldn't have the life that I have today. I wouldn't be changing lives by the millions around the world. Like I got a letter, a handwritten letter from 3 girls from in a village in India who read my book in their tiny school library. And they wrote to me that after reading this book, we know that we will never give up on our dreams. And that is the gift. That is the legacy, right? And I get messages like these every day. That's what I live with. That's what life is about. And that will not happen unless you're true to who you are and you're living your truth with full glory. So be very unapologetic about it.
Incredible message, super powerful. Thank you so much. That was amazing. And so I want to thank you again for being on this show and adding so much value to the people's lives who are going to listen in and tune in and listen to your story again. And so, what's one place people can reach out to you and find you and connect with you if you want?
Best way is Instagram. I am Samra Zafar. That's my Instagram handle. My website is www.samrazafar.com. You can send me an email through there. LinkedIn, we connected.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very approachable. So you can find me on social media, but I think those three would be, Instagram would be the first one. That's where I'm most active because I'm always posting stuff.
Amazing. And I can vouch for how approachable Samra is because I reached out to her and she accepted my invitation and I'm grateful for that. So thank you again, Samra, for being on the show and have an amazing weekend and an amazing rest of your life and good luck with all your projects.
Thank you so much. All the best. Take care.